You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cricket Podcast, where we're going to be talking about our IPL predictions. How did we do? Badly is the spoiler.
Spoilers.
How should we? How badly,
How badly
did we
do?
Yeah. Before I get going, just a reminder to make sure you click like and subscribe on whichever platform you are listening or watching on. Also, head to the show notes where you can support the show, patreon.com/thecricketpod, or follow one of our links to various different sponsors and other things. Get on that while we're talking IPL. Max, the IPL is done. You weren't on the immediate post-final chat chat show that I had with Dan. What were your thoughts on it? Let's do that. What were your thoughts on the IPL in general? On a scale of 1 to 10, how classic was this IPL?
It was a weird one, wasn't it? So it scores classic points for being a weird IPL, and it probably scores classic points for the unexpected finalists and victors. So it's got a good 8 maybe. It loses points because of the lack of jeopardy towards the end. Jeopardy in terms of the teams that were able to qualify for the top 4. There were a lot of dead rubbers towards the end, but there was still enough time for Gujarat to bottle it from looking like a supremely placed to top the table, and CSK being terrible will make a lot of people happy. So yeah, it had moments. Maybe I'm going to say 8 because 7 always feels like a cop out when you're ranking something out of 10.
Yeah, I kind of understand that. We should probably say as well, like, we're obviously not going to go into this in loads of detail, but we have seen the news coming out of Bengaluru in terms of the crowd disaster. I don't know how I should explain it really. And we are thinking about people who were affected there. It was not the scenes that we wanted to see immediately following the tournament. On the topic of how good the IPL was, I would probably put it slightly below. I think it's too. I thought it was a fairly average IPL as a whole. And actually, I think there were too few really good games. And ESPN after the tournament did like a stats roundup. Mostly boring stats, but I felt this during the tournament. I think so. I think there were a few things. Like, one, there was a lack of jeopardy near the end of the tournament. That wasn't helped by the fact that all of these games that had a lack of jeopardy were delayed by an entire week. So it really did drag things out. And I know the guys are organising the tournament have nothing to do with that, but that wasn't fantastic. And then the third thing is that in terms of the actual games themselves. If we define a close game as a margin of 10 runs or less, or a win within 6 balls of a win in the final over, or a win by fewer than 3 wickets, only 15 of the 71 matches fell into that criteria, which is 21%. So there's a 1 in 5 chance of that. And they're playing a game a day now, so in your average week,
games a week.
Yeah, and look, you can have a good game that is great for 35 overs, and then one team collapses, and that I think probably did happen a couple of times. So it is slightly misleading, and equally, you can have what happened in the final, where the game was won before the final over, basically, and then Hazelwood bowled like 6 on pace half.
Might as well have been underarm.
Sure like got hit for like 28 or something like that. But honestly, he couldn't have had. I don't care what happens to this ball. That could have been stamped on his head, and the message wouldn't have been clearer. So I'm saying that could be a little bit misleading. That is, if you want to put that in relative terms as well, that's the second fewest close games in an IPL,
right.
in terms of percentage. Normally, I think you're in the 30s when it comes to that. So you're getting 2 good games a week 2 close games a week, and this year it was 1.5. And if you drag out those games by cancelling that Saturday morning game or Saturday afternoon game, then you do slow down the pace of the tournament. And I think that you have to reflect that back on. Yeah, that has to be reported on, right?
That's fair. I think it was an IPL of moments, wasn't it? Not an IPL of consistent quality and excitement. An IPL of moments. You know, Vaibhav Suryavanshi and his unbelievable 100. Off 30, whatever it was, balls, 34, 35. I mean, that was insane, right? There was a load of new kids on the block. You had Digvesh and his send-offs. It was all about that, wasn't it? There was fun stuff happening, if not, consistent output.
I totally agree with that. I think I'm not saying that there was nothing worth watching the IPL for the avoidance of doubt. I'm saying that if you are talking about, it was a bit like the Premier League. There's nobody, just as a comparison here, even Liverpool fans aren't telling you that was a classic Premier League season. It was the IPL in terms of sporting drama far superior to this year's Premier League, where there was like nothing to play for an entire month at the end of the year apart from 4th place. It's like, will Nottingham Forest hold on to 4th place? Like, that is not what football in April and May is supposed to be about.
What Sky paying the big bucks for.
And the IPL have more than that. I think as well as the moments, I think the IPL was helped by a decent set of playoff games. There was the one blowout to kick things off, and then Mumbai Indians getting conquered by Shreyas Iyer was fantastic. And the final itself was a pretty good game without being a classic. Like, it was good, and I think the fact
good
that
for about 2/3
Punjab,
of it, wasn't it? And then
exactly, and the fact that it was Punjab v RCB, so we're going to get a new winner, and I think the fact that it ultimately was RCB, so you got the completion of the Kohli cycle. I think mean that we will remember large parts of this IPL. It was quite a memorable IPL without being a great IPL, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think we've avoided talking about our predictions
long enough
now. We've just ad-libbed an entire segment we weren't expecting to do.
It was quite good, I thought.
Yeah,
quite well.
So we will get to what's it called? Our predictions. In this is what we do. We predicted most runs. We predicted most wickets. We predicted the biggest flop, the MVP, who would make the playoffs, who would be the winner, and who would be the wooden spoon, or as we now call it, the butt scratcher. Is it the butt scratcher? The butt
bottom scraper.
Bottom scraper.
Butt scratcher.
Max, shall we start with most runs? And actually, this is the sort of time where it would be useful to actually get the stats up. So I will. I'll try.
Do you want to do that while I run through what we guessed?
Yeah. So the three of us guessed. We've got no Ross here. His wedding's on Saturday, so if anyone wants to wish him a happy wedding, I'd do that.
Yeah.
He lives in Tulse Hill. I can say his actual address. Ross Lake Tulse Hill. It'll get through.
Will do the rest.
What were our predictions when it came to runs?
We had Ross going for Travis Head. I went for King Legend himself, KL Rahul, and Jack, you took the low-hanging fruit and went for Virat Kohli.
I would say
not a bad set of predictions. Well, we did quite well.
Yeah,
we both got top teners.
Yeah, I think so. Normally, the way we do this, the closest to the correct answer gets 3. If you get it absolutely correct, so say I'd said Sai Sudarshan, that's 5 points. If you're closest, you get 3. 2 for next closest, 1 for third closest, with latitude for us to give 0 points if the predictions were truly awful. I think in this scenario, Max, Ross isn't here, so there's nothing he can really do about this. I think I get 3 points. Virat Kohli, third on the list.
Yep.
657 runs. He was 100 off top. A fair way off top, but it's still a good season. I think you get your 2 points. Like you said, top 10, KL Rahul, 540 odd runs.
I think
there was a rain off. Oh yeah, he missed the game, and he batted in some weird places as well. So I think you were a little bit unlucky not to squeeze a few more runs out of King Legend there. He averaged 53 for just to illustrate this. He averaged 53. A place above him on the most runs list, Prabhsimran Singh, averaged 32. So you didn't get your full bang for KL Rahul. So I think that's a fair 2 points. Travis Head,
21st place.
Yeah, I think you have to be in the top 20.
I agree. Yeah,
that
is the cut.
It's not.
Look, you have to click view all on the website to get to Travis Head. If you don't click view all, it only shows the top 20. So it's a natural cutoff that the BCCI have decided.
374 runs. He's behind Rickleton. He's behind Rahane. He's behind Parag. Like, I don't think
he's behind 2 other Sunrisers players.
So, as the official scorer for this, Max, I'd like to mark down a 3 for myself, a 2 for you, and that would be a 0 points for Ross. The next category that we did, wickets, and the way Ross has recorded this isn't clear.
No, he's got. I think he's got his own notes left over in the line he sent us, but I've scrubbed that. So
But even that doesn't make sense because the players aren't in the same team. He just hasn't said. So I think maybe we did do 2 guesses for wickets because it was difficult.
I don't know if we did. I don't know if we did. I
think
look,
this is what I've got down. This is what we know. I went for Varun Chakravarti.
Yeah.
Ross went for Max. You went for Adam Zampa.
Yeah.
That might be minus points.
Yeah.
Ross went for Rashid Khan.
Yeah.
That must be what we did because Rashid Khan is down twice, if not.
Yes.
Yeah. This doesn't really make sense if you're at home. Ross has sent over the notes. He wrote down who predicted what. And there are 6 names for wickets.
Yeah.
But 3
underneath the wickets are Ross's 3 options, I think, when he was going through his thought process. That's what I'm assuming has happened here.
Okay, so Ross's. Well, here's what Ross's thought process was then. Rashid Khan kind of makes sense. Arshdeep sort of makes sense. And Hasaranga, who I don't know why he picked him out of rage or something like that. That's
like me picking Adam Zampa.
Yeah, I think that's 3 pretty poor picks. Max, in terms of like where people actually ended, in terms of wickets, did any of us even get in the ballpark?
Varun was 8th.
Okay,
Varun was 8th for 17 wickets. So that's not too shabby. No one else is in the top 20 cutoff, unfortunately. Hasaranga was 31st, and Arshdeep
did finish 5th. Yeah,
Arshdeep came 5th. So Ross's 2 options there did quite well. Rashid Khan 40th with 9 wickets. So he went for the worst option of the 3 he shortlisted. And as for Adam Zampa, 2 wickets, 86th place.
Yeah, so that's a 0
in 2 matches. So it's not my fault that Sunrisers panicked.
That's a 0 for you.
There. Yeah, I'll take it. I think it's
a 0 for Ross. And I think I get 2 points.
Okay.
On the basis that KL Rahul got 2 points for a top 10 finish in the runs.
Yeah, fine by me. I think that's fair. So that puts you on to 5 so far. I'm second with 2, and Ross is last on 0.
It might be my only points.
See how long we can keep this up.
Yeah. Do you want to do MVP or flop next?
Let's do flop.
Okay, right. So our selections for flop. Ross went for Venkatesh Iyer. Max, you went for Narain. Bold play. And I went for Rishabh Pant. And I am absolutely gutted on this front because I was definitely in the running. A captain who'd led his team to a dismal season, who'd scored no runs, who in some games didn't even seem confident enough to actually go out and bat, and then the fucker scores a century in the last match of the season.
Yeah. Of 61, 118 not out of 61 balls. Second highest innings of
torpedoes the whole thing. He would have Max. He would have averaged about 10 if he hadn't done that.
Yeah.
It would have been a banker, even notwithstanding the fact that the Venkatesh Iyer was also really bad. But Rishabh Pant was taking that home. Instead, he finished the season with 269 runs, still a terrible average, 24.5, and a pretty pant strike rate, 133. But that century probably does mean that he is not the inarguable flop of the season. I hate to say it, but I think there's probably 5 points to Ross for Venki Iyer, who wasn't even
playing. You think he's the biggest flop?
I think pound for pound, biggest flop of this IPL was Iyer. I'm saying he was the worst player.
More so than Glenn Maxwell?
I
was
think so.
Terrible,
Glenn
then
Maxwell
got injured and went home.
I think more terrible than Glenn Maxwell, because Glenn Maxwell was paid comparative peanuts.
That's true. Yeah, I did forget about the money angle.
Venki Iyer's season, played in 11 games, batted 7 times, scored 142 runs, average of 20, striking at 139. So it's a raw stat line. It's not way worse than Rishabh Pant.
I think Rashid Khan's probably got a bit of a shout as well as.
Yeah, look, I can kind of see that. There's a few sort of other wild cardish names that you might throw in.
Yeah,
I think, but like I don't know if any of them. If you look at the big names who failed, Venki Iyer is top of the list, I think, and then Rishabh Pant probably still in the top 5, even with that century. Rashid Khan was poor. I do agree with that. But some of the other ones that are, historically, we've always backed. So normally someone takes Rohit Sharma, for example, because there's a decent chance Rohit's going to. Not this year. Rohit was sort of absolutely fine. There was the chance. I don't think it was the worst get gambler in the world to go with someone like Narayan or Andre Russell, because they're getting old. But neither of them were like awful. They just weren't that good.
Brilliant. Yeah.
You could argue Liam Livingston, but what like then my question to you would be what were you backing?
What were you
why were you
expecting?
expecting Liam Livingston to do? Yeah, like it's. So I think as much as it pains me to say it, I think it's 5 points. I think Ross has got that spot on.
All right.
I think you can choose the number of points for Rishabh Pant. Definitely a flop, but
I think
not
you
the
deserve
outright
at
flop.
least 2.
I'll have 2 points for that then. And Narayan, I'm not sure you can argue that Narayan. I even remember seeing Narayan get a direct hit run out. So I cannot see.
Yeah, that's a flop. Oh, we're not counting run-outs though. Yeah, I mean, he took 12 wickets, which is like fine. And
yeah, it wasn't a great season. It wasn't a great
average
season.
22 with the bat, but he did it at quite a good strike rate. So yeah, probably not floppy enough for any points.
I mean, Narayan was probably half as good as he was last year. So he has regressed, but I don't think to the extent that he could be described as a flop, I'm afraid to say.
Fair enough.
MVP. For this category, I went with Hardik Pandya. You went with Jadeja. And Ross has gone for Sky. Now, you don't have a horse in this race.
Let's get Jadeja out of the way. Yeah. He's done well enough to make sure I don't get negative points. And I'm totally okay with that.
He wasn't the worst player on the team he played for.
No. He was actually around 30th best at batting and bowling across the whole of the IPL. So, top 20%. It's all right, isn't it? Yeah. Well done.
Who was the IPL MVP? And I'm not talking about the stupid, superstar points game. Game 1 here. I mean, in your opinion, as a cricket watcher.
In my opinion. The officially named one was Suryakumar Yadav, who Ross went for. And the thing about Sky is that he was good in almost every single game.
He
Like
was pretty good, yeah.
he came second in the run shots, but he averaged 65. He scored 717 runs. He didn't hit 100. His highest score was 73 not out.
Yeah.
So that was just unbelievable levels of consistency for Suyukuma Yadav. So I think he's definitely in with a shout. If I don't know if Lucknow had gone further, I'd almost be thinking Mitch Marsh deserves a shout because almost single-handedly dragged them into being in contention. I think you could probably maybe you wouldn't say the same about Shreyas. If Punjab had won, I think Shreyas Iyer was possibly in the
100%.
in the running as well. And we always forget about the bowlers, don't we? And I mean, come on, Prashad Krishna, where did that come from? 25 wickets. Jasprit Bumrah basically changed Mumbai's season. He took 18 wickets in 12 games and went at 6.67 economy rate, which is just there's 2 runs less than basically anyone else above him, which is also obscene.
Yeah, it is what I would say. I think that the MVP they either have to do something like so preposterously ridiculous that you can't give it to somebody else, or they have to come from the team that won the IPL.
Yeah,
and so for that reason, I would argue Josh Hazlewood as the MVP.
Also a fair shout.
22 wickets in 12 matches.
Yeah, that's
he comfortably their best player, I think.
Yeah. A strike rate of 12 with the ball.
And I think you could also probably make an argument for Krunal, but I don't think that's very sexy. I think Krunal Pandya is not sexy enough. He's like he's the less good he's the less good Pandya, isn't he? So
yeah. And you went for the other Pandya as your MVP. So if his brother wins, I think that's you're disqualified from the entire game, I think.
So that's I think there were a lot of really good performances. I think in terms of like individual accomplishments, Suryakumar Yadav probably has put together the most impressive season. But his team didn't make the final. In the match that he needed to do something else, he didn't actually play that well. He played okay, but the star of the show was Shreyas Iyer. Shreyas Iyer would have been the MVP for me had he done anything in the final. Yeah, but he didn't. He got a duck or one or something like that.
Yeah.
And that sort of eliminates him. So that would be my argument.
I'm content to go with Josh Hazlewood because it always goes to a batter, and that's boring. And RCB won it for the first time, and they will not be winning that without Josh Hazlewood. So, fine. But how many points are we going to give Ross for saying Sky, the official MVP? 3 rather than 5? Yeah.
I think he probably has to get 3. He won't like that.
0 for me. Well, he
won't like that.
Defend himself, is he?
I actually think that's a very fair argument that you give it in these tournaments. Either has to be like preposterous, and 700 runs is good, but it's not 900 runs. Didn't Shubman Gill get 901 runs one year or something like that? Like,
yeah,
that's you can't overlook that, even if the team finishes bottom of the table. 700, I can take it or leave it. Try a bit harder, get a century. That's what I say. Max,
Hardik, you went for. How many points do you want for Hardik?
As many as you want to give me.
Probably none.
Okay. I think that's probably fair. He wasn't bad. He wasn't bad.
He wasn't bad. He was marginally better than Jadeja.
I think had Hardik, had they won the league, then I think that Suryakumar Yadav is easy MVP. No debate MVP. And I think Hardik gets points for captaining and being a decent all-rounder. But he didn't. They didn't get to the final. And most valuable player. Well, you're not that fucking valuable if you didn't get to the final, are you?
No.
That's what I say. And there are other ways of looking at that. I understand. Here's who we predicted for the playoffs. Ross went with Rajasthan Royals, Sunrisers Hyderabad, Gujarat Titans, and Mumbai Indians. So it's a point per correct selection, I think.
Right.
Yeah. Unless you get them all, and then you get 100 points. Max, you went for the Chennai Super Kings, the Mumbai Indians, the Sunrisers of Hyderabad, and RCB.
Mm-hmm.
I went for SRH, Kolkata Knight Riders, Chennai Super Kings, and Mumbai Indians. So all round there, pretty poor efforts, I would say. But doing good. Some I should have got 3.
Yeah.
I got 1.
1 for you, 2 for Ross and me.
Yeah. Ross thought it was hilarious. I got 1. I think that's actually much more likely than you thought. I wasn't, getting 0 would have been embarrassing. I think that the average score there is probably 2.
Yeah.
So I'm not.
I've doubled my points tally with that.
Here's who we said
where
for
it
winners.
ends, though.
Here's who we said for winners. I said the Mumbai Indians. Max, you went for Chennai Super Kings, and Ross went for Sunrisers. We'll say Sunrisers.
Yeah. Should we give you a point for Mumbai? Because
is it close between me and Ross?
Off?
Is it close? If I don't get a point here, will Ross win?
Ross is on 10.
Yeah.
You're on 8.
I think I should get 2 points.
I'm also playing. You should have 2 points. Well, sure,
I think
why not?
Well, actually, just I don't want to be like a rules Nazi, but we did say earlier that the closest should get 3 points.
Yeah, I think so. I think you'd have had to get in. You'd have to have the losing finalists to get 3 points.
Okay, all right. Here's what we said for Wooden Spoon then. Ross went for Lucknow Super Giants. Max, you went for the Punjab Kings. And I went for Delhi.
Big fat 0 for me.
Yeah.
How did the table end eventually? Because I feel like that might be a point each for you two.
Yeah, I mean, I think Delhi managed to sort of sneak into 5th place, didn't they?
They did
in the back of a rain off, basically. Which they
won. They won. Did they win the rescheduled game that shouldn't really have been rescheduled? Or
they had that, and then they also
they shouldn't have had.
There was a rain off where they'd managed to post 120, like their innings had ended, and they posted 120, and so that should never have happened. And then they did win the rescheduled match against Punjab, where they were definitely going to lose.
Yeah.
So I think morally, it should be a tie. I don't feel that I did any worse than Lucknow.
1 point apiece for you two, and a big fat 0 for me.
So what were the final scores, Max?
It's did we come up with a tiebreaker? Because it's 11 points apiece for you and Ross, and I also played.
Okay, we didn't come up with a tiebreaker, but here are the facts. I'm here and Ross isn't. Also,
Ross is the only one to get a 5. That's my tiebreaker.
Yeah, so I think that skews things unfairly. Like, I think what that tells you is that Ross was just lucky once, and I was consistently good at predictions. So therefore, I should win. I think that's
we'll do rock paper scissors on Wednesday at Lords, and we'll
yeah. Or how about this? If you're over on YouTube, why don't you let us know in the comments who
is your winner?
Yeah, who is your winner?
That sounds good. Let the people decide. Democracy. That's what we're all about here on the Cricket Podcast.
What was the worst prediction anyone made?
I think at the start it looked like me saying Jadeja's MVP was pretty bad, but he ended up not being that terrible. I think me saying Punjab to come bottom's pretty close to the worst one.
Yeah.
Zampa as top wicket taker is also pretty terrible, although I still back the logic behind it. What other guesses did I make? Anything I said basically was about as bad as it could possibly get.
Chennai
Yeah,
Super Kings for winner. They finished bottom.
yeah. Also
So
awful.
you actually managed to get that completely the wrong way round.
Yeah. So
Well, you were within.
I'd
You were
argue,
within 7
not
runs.
my
But
fault. Yeah, not my fault. That though. It's
Dhoni's
just
fault.
Dhoni's fault. Yeah.
All right, Max. Well, that's the IPL done. If you were listening earlier as well, that's the end. Well, that's the preview for the World Test Championship. We'll continue with some coverage of that probably a little bit later in the week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.